Hello, YouTubers, Spotifyers, and general non-Patreon people. Welcome to the cut-down version of the Replimat, a weekly chatcast in which two very interesting people, although possibly nerds, go through Star Trek Deep Space Nine, episode by episode in chronological order. This week we have Series 2, Episode 15, which is Paradise. Story by Jim Trombetta and James Crocker. Teleplay by Jeff King, Richard Manning and Hans Beimler. Directed by Corey Allen. Firstly, there's myself, Tim. I'm a newbie to this whole thing. Well, I was when it started anyway. I'm halfway through season 2 now, and I'm not really a newbie anymore. And also my colleague over all the way in Wales.
Me, Andy, who is most definitely not a newbie to this whole Star Trek thing.
And there we have it. Now, according to Netflix, right, this episode is, while surveying nearby star systems for M-class planets, Sisko and O'Brien locate a planet that already supports a colony of humans.
Dun, dun, dun.
Gosh.
Golly.
So before we start chatting up Paradise,
Yes.
how you doing, Andy? How's your week been?
Really busy.
I'm going to plunge my coffee while you're chatting away, if that's all right.
As you do. I would be surprised if you did anything less. My week's been busy. We're kicking into peak. So long days, 9-hour shifts most of the time, because I go in early just to help out and get set up and whatnot. I did watch a fascinating Netflix documentary called Escaping the Twin Flames, which is all about this very, they all are, but very peculiar cult that was set up by this guy who was just basically a con artist, really. But it goes to very dark lengths as time goes on, where he starts to assign people relationships with each other, to the point where he's creates this concept of divine masculinity and divine femininity, and even if you're male or female, one of you must be masculine, so therefore one of you must start becoming male, which obviously is rather missing the whole point of transgenderism, really. The idea that you can be forced into it. It's like, well, no, it's not really about being forced into accepting you're something else. It's just self-discovery of your own. So, yeah, it's a very, very dangerous cult, and unfortunately still going on today, which is pretty horrific. But it's only 3 episodes. Definitely worth a watch if you're interested in such things.
Well, I'm glad to hear you've had a cheerful week.
Very cheerful. Well, it fascinates me. I mean, it's disturbing but fascinating too. And so I bought a new book because you started this. And I not only bought it, but I'm actually 44 pages into it. So I actually read the books I buy. Now, just talking the theme, right? It's called Cult Trip.
Well, that's what you're on at the moment.
Yeah, clearly. But yeah. So that's basically what I've been doing, really. Not much else. I put my Christmas decorations up. I mean, I don't know if you can see just up there.
Oh, I see a twinkling light in the top corner.
See a little bit of tinsel, yeah.
I do.
I don't put much up. I've got just a little bit of tinsel there. Yeah, I've got a little bit there. Got some behind me there, which you can see on the widescreen version. There's some there, and I've got my little tree in the corner. And I'll say my Christmas tree, it's only about yay big. Right. But frankly, that's big enough for a tree, especially when you've got cats.
So, yes, this is true.
Tim.
Yes.
Dare I ask? Because of course, last week you were suffering from back pains.
Yeah, so the back discomfort seems to have gone now. Good. Generally, although I'm still being careful just in case. And I did then think I was coming down with a stinking cold, which seems to have it kind of stuck around for a couple of days, and it's just left me a little bit more nasal than I usually am. So that's that. As usual, it's just been a lot of work, not a lot of writing this week, unfortunately. But Let's see, what have I got to share everyone? These have only just arrived today.
Acquisitions.
In my acquisitions, on my travels,
On
I
your
tended
travels.
to be listening recently to Absolute Radio 90s in the car radio when I've been travelling, just because I like that period. And I've encountered a lot of KLF, and I'd kind of forgotten how much I liked the KLF back
I
when I was in
remember
the
that.
sixth form. So I picked up
I
a couple
remember
of
that. Yeah.
KLF singles off of eBay, and they just turned up today. So I got where is it? 3 a.m. Eternal, and
What's that?
last train to Chan Central. A couple of
Yeah, I remember that as well.
banging tracks there. So I'll so that's good. And I did also receive some books. So these turned up yesterday, which is why I haven't started reading them yet, but I will read them at some point. A couple of Paul Hayes books. So one of them is Pull to Open, which is
Hayes.
the story of
Right. Yeah.
the creation of Doctor Who back in 62, 63, and the other one is The Long Game, which is about bringing back Doctor Who in 2005, or the story of from between 1996 and
5 or
2003 when it came back. So but I
18
have had a
years
flick
ago.
through them. They do look scarily readable. Because I read through the introductions to both when they arrived and thought, these do look like books I could lose myself in for a few days. So I tell you what I did last week when we were watching the Doctor Who. We talked briefly about the Underwater Menace.
Yes.
And I'd enjoyed watching both animated versions of that, and so I actually decided to watch the reconstruction, which I haven't done on any of the other ones. The reconstructed episodes 1 and 4, because the ones on the DVD ages ago were quite insulting. Actually, I thought they were really bad.
Bare
But
minimum
the ones on this DVD are really, really good.
Shall we go into paradise, Tim?
Yeah. So, this have you got any trivia that needs to be raised about?
I haven't actually read anything. I should have done, but I haven't.
Right.
I could quickly scan some on Wikipedia while you're talking, if you like.
If you want to, it's a weird episode. This I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it. And there was a certain amount of it that I felt just kind of it sort of met my expectations as I went through. I don't think anything about it really surprised me. There was some horrible clunky moments towards the beginning, where you've got the community asking stupid questions of Cisco and O'Brien. If they've been stuck on the planet for 10 years,
which isn't that long, really,
the guy's not going to know what the recent football schools or anything were anyway. I mean, that's just I don't know. Yeah, so stuff like that just really it jars. I think. The other thing, the main thing, actually, the whole way through, Alexis, was it? Oh, yeah, Alexis.
Yeah.
Her the tone of her voice, the quality of her voice, and actually the look of her slightly as well, just reminded me of Captain Janeway. So I just wondered how close to this Voyager was developed, because you look at that and think, did the producers look at this and think that's a strong kind of female? There's a moral gravitas to the voice and to the delivery, but I wondered if that may have affected their sort of development of the character of Janeway. And Kate Mulgrew has, I suppose, a passing resemblance to whoever that actor was.
Well, funny you should say this, because I'm going to say none.
No,
because Voyager came, I suppose, a year later in terms of
Okay.
production and release.
So they would have been planning it
Um,
at this point.
There was certainly the series were beginning to take place. Um, but Kate Mulgrew came in to start Voyager quite late the day because the pilot was certainly a good 50% filmed before she came into it. So I can see what you're saying in regards to the way the characters' dialogue is delivered and written. There's a certain, I can see the similarities. Yeah, this episode, it fascinates me. I think being Star Trek, especially at this point in Star Trek's history, they don't really go into it as much as they maybe need to, the concept behind it. I mean, they go into it fairly well, especially with her character. Although, as you say, it's nothing in it that you think, "Ooh, didn't see that coming." It's all quite by numbers in a way, but
Yeah.
still quite fascinating to watch. Because again, just as with cults, because it's kind of a cult almost, of a cult personality, if nothing else.
I'm glad they stayed there at the end as well. I'm glad the rest of the community opted to remain behind.
Those that we know will, who knows? I always thought it'd be quite interesting to see if they ever went back or did a follow up. So, like say, some of the characters might turn up who had decided to come back into society.
Yeah.
But no, again, same reason cults fascinates me, I suppose. The idea that one person can have so much control on somebody else, it's disturbing on a very core level. And I think this episode, although maybe not goes as deep as it could possibly go, I think through her character in particular, I think they explore it quite well. And the actress conveys that power that she's got. And the fact that she clearly knows from the beginning of the episode, not that she's in the wrong, but that her ideals, her beliefs are so strong that she's convinced herself that she's right. And there's no other alternative. And the only other alternative is completely wrong and it's just destroyed the core of who we are. I mean, as a character and as a belief system, if she had stayed on Earth or a more populated area, then she almost certainly, I think, probably would have ended up becoming some kind of cult leader, because that's kind of where this is edging towards in a manner of speaking. So it's quite apt that we watch this one today, for me.
It is, and she's, I suppose she is kind of like a cult leader, but she's manufactured the situation, hasn't she? So
it turns out, absolutely.
It would be different if she'd kind of set out and said, wanted people to start their own, back to roots community.
That was what she wanted. Well, that is exactly what she wanted, and she just found this planet that was perfect for her needs and her ideals. So she created an entire situation where they crashed because she made them crash, knowing full well. And as she said, she actually invented this thing that created this. I want to call it a neurotic field, but it's not neurotic field. What's it called?
Duodetic or
duonetic or duonic.
Duodenum. Duodetic.
Field. Yeah. Because she created this device that allowed to dampen everything. Dampens the FM, the MF. Whatever, MF, that's it. So, I mean, one way or the other, she was going to get away. As she made clear, I mean, because the clues are all set up that, she's always had paper books, she's always been prepared for this. Her son lets this drop many a time.
Yeah.
This was absolute goal. And she thought she got away with it. She really had, and of course, as soon as Cisco and O'Brien arrives, she's like, well, that's okay, you can't escape. So, and I've launched a ship into the sun, so I will continue to get away with this, which is exactly what cult leaders, of course, are all about, aren't they? They're all like,
this is true.
I have this ideal, and I will coerce people into agreeing with me, because you create this sense of this communal living where everybody's dressed the same, everybody starts thinking the same. You're denied thinking about certain things or looking into certain things, and I've gone blurry as hell, and I'm talking, which may not be on full screen. One second.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Yes. If it was just a community
it's
with
disturbed.
yeah, if it was just a community or kind of like of sort of a mutual sort of mutually agreed community, then there wouldn't have been the objection to Cisco and O'Brien trying to
Yeah.
work out what the problem was. So as soon as that happens, you start to think, okay, there's something else at work here. There's something else at play, and they see, sure, she sees that as a threat to, to the community, but actually,
Well, yeah,
you
there
realise
was
quite quickly it's a threat to her.
yeah, there was this, and I think it was in that thing I was watching, the How to Become a Cult Leader. One particular cult, I can't quite remember which one it is because there's 6 episodes, so it kind of blurs a wee bit. Where this guy, again, he'd done the whole come up with this, convince himself he's the new one, he's a new messiah, all this nonsense, and he's come up with this ideal. So he ends up taking all these people. This is the new Eden, essentially. We're going to build. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be all this. They all arrive there, totally believe in it. Finds out it's just this wasteland, which they've now have to work it all up, build a place and everything. And the press obviously got kind of like, what's going on? I believe the governor or something was basically, I need to find out what's going on. So he went for a visit. They obviously set up this image of, we're all brilliant, everyone's happy. But then he started getting letters from certain people who was like, actually help us. And it was all very agreed because it's all being filmed that the people who were unhappy could leave. But of course, by the time when they got to the helicopter to leave, they all got gunned down. And this is a real thing. So there's an analogy here between this and this episode, like what you just said about Alexis. Sorry, she's welcoming and puts on the show almost, but when it comes to time to leave, she does everything in her power to make sure, no, you're not leaving, because I don't want anybody outside to know about this, because she knows somehow on some level, although like any cult leader, she's convinced herself she's right in some way. She's still aware that, I don't know if it's an awareness of wrongness so much as they convince themselves that nobody else will understand. I don't know. I think maybe it's a bit of both. And I don't know. I like this episode. Yes, the opening's a little bit hokey in places. Certainly the introduction where they first all meet, that's definitely like, okie dokie. But when you get past that and you get into the nuts and bolts of the story, I think it's done fairly well. Probably as deeply as Star Trek could do at this point. I mentioned during the watching the whole scenario they create for Kira and Dax to find out, or to go and find out where they're gone. I like how it's all, because usually they'd have manufactured some kind of tragedy. Oh, we need Cisco back. Oh no, we can't find him. Whereas this was quite whimsical of this captain's coming back, and apparently
he wants a game of poker.
Yeah, because Cisco beat him last time, so he wants. Oh, better warn Cisco, getting ready for this next game. Oh, we can't find him. I like the whimsical nature of it. It's like, yeah, it's kind of more, and it totally fits this, not reinvention of Dax, but this discovery of who the character is in the last few episodes. Certainly since Rivals, I think it is, where she's a bit of a poker player and she's a bit of a more. She's not the serene, wise woman they originally had it portrayed as. She's much more chill and fun. And I've lived so long, life's more fun.
Yeah, she's got a side. She's definitely got a side to her.
Yeah,
and I agree. The having it being just an ordinary and actually a social reason to try and reach out to Cisco is it's more in keeping with Deep Space Nine as well, because it's not about it's part of the everyday life, isn't it? It's not about what's the next big dilemma. It's not about suddenly some important dignitary has arrived from wherever, and Cisco's not around, we need to get him back here quickly. It's just part of day-to-day life.
And it shows that the series is, really beginning to find and embrace its identity, which is done pretty much since the end of season 1, I think.
I mean, one thing that I did note, O'Brien gets to talk about Keiko a little bit, which is a lot.
I think more organically this time.
And that was a positive. I don't recall noting Cisco talking about Jake. And
no, the only thing he said, I didn't mention son at all. The only thing he ever did in terms of relationships. I would have thought
that there would have been at least some, even if it was just a plea back to Alexis to let them continue trying to find a way off there, because he's got a son. He needs to get back to his son. His son doesn't know where he is, and so I don't know, or maybe that's me imprinting on.
I was going to say maybe
as a father, because I'm conscious when I'm away from home. I'm conscious that I'm not there for my kids.
But I think in this situation, to do so for Cisco, and I think this is very much a conscious, obviously it's a deliberate writing choice as well, and a character choice. That would be giving her power, and he pretty much almost immediately from meeting her, he can see. I think he gets a full, a measure of her pretty much from the moment he meets her, really.
Yeah.
So I think he knows to even give her that kind of weapon against him, essentially. Because she absolutely would have used that. Whereas, don't forget, the only time that O'Brien talked about his wife, and usually for O'Brien, was in a normal, social, just conversational way. Like the bit where he's gardening, it makes sense that, my wife would love this. Or, seeing me do this, and that's like, that feels natural. But he never certainly did it to Alexis. As far as I'm aware, didn't mention it in front of Alexis.
Yeah, no, he didn't. It was only Joseph.
Just pure conversation. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So,
but I think with Cisco, I think it would have been a case that it would have been handing over power to Alexis, and Cisco's smarter than that. But no, I can see what you're saying though. Maybe they should have had a conversation at least between Cisco and O'Brien about it.
Yeah.
I need to get back to my wife and my daughter, and you need to get back to your son, which would have kind of fit with O'Brien brown-nosing Cisco at the beginning again. I mean, it's so. I don't know if it's uncomfortable to watch or just kind of funny to watch these scenes where you've got O'Brien constantly bootlicking, because he does it a lot.
Yes, he does.
Every time. He did it before. Remember, he did it a few episodes ago. So, my wife's very fond of your son. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, stop. I know he's your commanding officer, but dude, come on.
Yeah.
Stop trying to ingratiate yourself, because in some ways, you're doing exactly what Bashir keeps trying to do to O'Brien.
Yeah.
Thinking about it. Because, Bashir is always trying to ingratiate himself with O'Brien. And O'Brien is always doing it to Cisco.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation there.
Yeah, it just occurred to me.
But yeah, you're right.
That's interesting. I wonder if it's deliberate.
But I think you're right. I think possibly there should have just been a moment between the two of them, because again, it helps to create that sense of place and their relationship, or their relation to DS9, because it's not just where they're posted, but it's where their life is.
Definitely.
And just so it's very. I'm not sure whether it's easy for or it seems to be too easy for them to forget, or to lose the emotional connection there, or it's lazy lazy writing and lazy production. I'm not
I
sure
think there may
which.
be an element of it's still Star Trek, and the writers and the ethos in the writers' room, as it were, it's still aware it's Star Trek, and there's a habit, or has been a habit, of Star Trek not really being about the personal life so much. So maybe it's still the instinct is to veer away from that a wee bit. Even though
Yeah,
DS9 is very much not about that, but it's still they haven't quite settled into that just yet. I don't. Maybe that's what
yeah,
that is a little bit.
because
Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
they
Maybe.
set DS9 up. DS9 has essentially been set up as like a soap opera,
Yeah,
really.
it certainly has the
So
potential of being
they're
so
kind of
by.
they're telling a soap opera, with but they're not allowing the characters to fully embrace soap opera
Well,
conventions. In a
I know for a fact that that's almost certainly partly down to Paramount execs, because there's always this constant battle between them and I would say Ira Steven Beer when he takes over as producer.
Hmm.
He's so aware of this show is designed to be a serial. It's designed not to be a soap as such, but soap in a sense of character interaction, ongoing, and the more
Yes,
real
it's
elements
set in
of
one
Star Trek.
place. It's
Yeah,
with these
and
characters.
whereas the network still the thing, well, syndication, which means they may want to show them out of order, which why would you? But apparently that was a thing. Um, so it's a constant fight. I think though it's when Voyager becomes the flagship of the UPN network, which is Paramount's new network they create in the next year in terms of where we're at.
Hmm.
Because they end up focusing on Voyager so much, and the networks constantly, bigwigs are constantly sticking their nose in and everything, and they're getting basically the show they want, which of course, not necessarily as it turns out a good thing. As a result, DS9 ends up not being overlooked, but certainly allowed certain freedom because they're not being scrutinized so much. But at
Right.
this
Okay.
point, they're still being scrutinized an awful lot. So there's a constant, we want to do this, but we can't because the bloody execs won't let us. So I can see why
Uh-huh.
at this point it's a tough one to just
Yeah.
serialize. Because Star Trek, traditionally, certainly next gen, certainly it started to eventually. You, for instance, you very rarely could get like follow-up episodes to a particular arc, like the Hulk war thing with his father and the Klingon stuff in Next Gen. They did an episode in season 3. I don't know if you would have seen it. It's basically where it turns out his father is a traitor, but turns out it's not his father. But it's left quite open-ended at the end, and the network's all a bit like, "Ooh, hang on a minute, what are you doing? You're like opening the door for a follow-up. What's going on?" But they just got away with it. But they did
Right.
eventually start to able to build on it every year. So I think DS9 is a good continuation of that, where they're trying,
Hmm.
and they get certainly better because we've had much more, not necessarily sequel episodes yet. We kind of have a wee bit, like obviously the Jonko and Bejor, the Cardassia thing, and there's lots of little bits, but nothing. I don't think I've had episodes yet that have actually been direct follow-ups to a particular episode, not counting the three-parters or anything like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're coming. Oh boy, they're coming. But yeah, it's a constant battle at this point, so it makes it a bit difficult. One thing I did think about in this episode, the question we often ask ourselves, would this work as TNG, basically? And yeah, this could easily be a TNG episode.
Yeah. It would.
Easy could
You're
have been
right.
Picard and whoever land on a planet. The Enterprise was called away to something else because that happens sometimes. And then we just follow to whoever it is. This is but not necessarily a weak one for it. It's not only
No.
can be told in the DS9 story, but I think if it had been Picard, for instance, it would have been quite a different kind of battle of wits. Because Cisco and Alexis, obviously, Cisco is quite different to Picard. But yeah, I think this could easily have been a next gen episode with minimum rewrites. So, your bottom
Yes.
line, Tim.
Yeah, what is my bottom line on this one? Oh, I don't know.
Interesting.
I didn't dislike it, but I
Okay.
wanted to. But I didn't like it as much as I wanted to, which I think I've said about quite a few episodes in series 2 so far. I just I feel slightly unfulfilled from it. That's I think that's probably the best I can do.
That's fair. Okay. My bottom line would be,
Yeah.
I liked it more than you did.
Yeah.
I think the idea behind it is kind of fascinating. I think the character work on the planet is really good, and the basic story is told very well.
Okay, so there we go. That's season 2, episode 15, Paradise. What have we got next?
Next time is an episode called Shadow Play.
Shadow play, as in like making little spooky rabbit shapes on the
for you to
on the wall.
decide.
Okay, I reckon this is going to be one of those classic Deep Space Nine episodes where Dr. Bashir spends most of his time making rabbit faces on the wall of his sick bay.
Rabbit faces.
I can't think of anything else it could possibly be.
Well, you're not right.
Well, that's a relief. That is.
There's a little bit more substance to it, in a manner of speaking.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I will tell you this, because this is what's good for you to know. It's an Odo episode.
Ooh, lovely, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Look forward to that then. Right. Yeah. Oh well, there we are. Thank you very much. If you're not following us on Patreon, that's the one. Then please do. And because you'll see us all in all our uncut glory there. And if you want to follow us on social media, then our socials and what's will be in the comments below, or the details below, rather. And that's probably about it.
Tim is definitely having a moment.
I'm having a moment here. So yeah,
he's having a senior moment. And just to piggyback on what Tim was trying to say there, on Patreon, it's all free.
Yes,
which is very important because we're doing this for fun, so why charge you? Join us on an uncut for free, and you get to see Tim, bless him, get tired and then ramble and be like, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore.
Yeah,
but
as I
happens to me
slowly
sometimes too.
Descend into incoherency. Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, I've been Tim, and he's been.
I have been Andy.
This is true.
Until next time.
And together we've been the Replimat. So until next time, bye bye, Duggan.
Bye bye, Duggan. Indeed.